From WBEZ Chicago, it's This American Life. I'm Ira Glass. Okay, so for months around here at our radio show, we have all been preparing for this day today. The date of this day has been written on our whiteboard in big letters for months because this is the day that we launch our first real spinoff. As of today, we're not making just one weekly show here, but two shows. Our second show is called Serial. That's not like breakfast, but the kind of cereal where one thing follows another. And I've mentioned this show on the air before, but just in case you missed that, here's the premise of the new show. Instead of each episode bringing you, a different theme and different stories, every episode of Serial brings you back to the exact same story and tells you the next chapter in that story. This is a long story told over a dozen episodes, a true story. One of our producers and regular contributors, Sarah Koenig, is going to be hosting the new series. And the first story Serial is taking on is about a murder. It's a case where what really happened is actually much more complicated than the jury ever heard when this thing went to trial. And each week, we will go with Sarah on her hunt to figure out what really happened. And we will learn the answers as she does. Our new show, by the way, is not a radio show. It's a podcast. I'll explain more about that later in the hour. And what we're going to do today here on the radio is play you the first episode. Okay, and so with that, here's Sarah. And I really hope you like this.
For the last year, I've spent every working day trying to figure out where a high school kid was for an hour after school one day in 1999. Or if you want to get technical about it, and apparently I do, where a high school kid was for 21 minutes after school one day in 1999. They passed in class about their drug habits, their relationships with their parents. And I am not a detective or a private investigator. I'm not even a crime reporter. But yes, every day this year, I've tried to figure out the alibi of a 17-year-old boy. Before I get into why I've been doing this, I just want to point out something I'd never really thought about before I started working on this story. And that is, it's really hard to account for your time, in a detailed way, I mean. How'd you get to work last Wednesday, for instance? Drive, walk, bike? Was it raining? Are you sure? Did you go to any stores that day? If so, what did you buy? Who did you talk to? The entire day, name every person you talked to. It's hard. Now imagine you have to account for a day that happened 6 weeks back, because that's the situation in the story I'm working on, in which a bunch of teenagers had to recall a day 6 weeks earlier. And it was 1999, so they had to do it without the benefit of texts or Facebook or Instagram. Just for a lark, I asked some teenagers to try it. Do you remember what you did on that Friday?